thoughts about the pastors who are saying, hey, the government's trying to suppress the church by not allowing us open, or now there's a conversation about, well, we're going to get shut down on YouTube or social media accounts because we're Christians. Anything you want to say into that space to those who are worried that freedoms are being curtailed on, like, in a discriminatory way?
Yeah, I totally reject that. The very fact that people tried to politicize a pandemic is just dumb. This is a safety issue, not a First Amendment issue. Now, you might have a case if everything else opened up except the church. Okay, but we're not being discriminated against. We went an entire football season. Sporting events are shut down. There are no concerts going on. The theaters are shut down. Restaurants in Southern California are shut down. If we were the only ones, yeah, I would be the first to raise my hand and say, we're being discriminated against. This is not a discrimination issue. This is a healthcare issue. And the Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself. The most practical way right now you can love your neighbor as yourself, wear a mask. And to not wear one basically says, I don't care about you, or I don't even care about your fears. And I know all these leaders. I knew the head of the CDC, Bob Redfield.
I might even go so far as to say that this face mask is more guaranteed to protect me against COVID than when I take a COVID vaccine.
I knew Debbie Birx.
She traveled out of state to a Delaware beach house with her family over Thanksgiving, despite guidelines for Americans to limit their own holiday celebrations.
And I know Francis Collins, head of the National Institute of Health.
The recommendations are for kids under 12 that they avoid being in places where they might get infected, which means recommendations of mask wearing in schools, and that at home, parents of unvaccinated kids should be thoughtful about this, and the recommendation is to wear masks there as well.
Let me just follow up on that.
I know that's uncomfortable. I know it seems weird, but it is the best way to protect your kids.
They're all good Christian people. I've worked with them for years on other pandemics around the world. They're not partisan politicians. They're not trying to, it's not socialism in disguise. We're trying to shut you down. They're just trying to be careful. What's insidious about this is that you could be a carrier and have no symptoms. Okay, that's a problem. I could carry it and not have symptoms. And so when I don't wear a mask, I'm gambling without knowing that I'm safe, that I'm not harming you. I've had enormous pressure to reopen the church from my own members. Not from everybody, but from pretty much the people who are watching those 3 hours every night on TV. Okay. And they're pressuring, why aren't we reopening? Why aren't we reopening? And I'm going, wait a minute, we're winning more people to Christ than ever before. We got more people in groups than ever before. We've got a great ministry to seekers out there in through food. All these different things are going on. What are your problem? What's the problem? We baptize more people. When they say the pressure's on, I say this. As a pastor, God has called me not just to feed the flock, but to protect it. And that means protecting it physically as well as emotionally and spiritually. I will one day stand before God and give an account of my leadership to him. How well I shepherded this flock. Did I protect the sheep that God put in the stewardship of me? I couldn't imagine going to heaven and saying that I let members die because I had such an ego I needed a crowd to speak to. I'm not willing to gamble the health of my members to nurse my ego that would like to have a live audience. So I'm not willing to accept that responsibility. But then I said, are you? Those of you members who want me to reopen, are you willing to accept the responsibility to stand before God one day? I had 3 members die this week of COVID. Okay, without services. No telling what could happen. Are you willing to accept responsibility for the death of a brother or sister in our family?